Okay.
Well, good morning. This is Johnathon Alexander, livebordernews.com, and today we're going to be talking, as promised, about the human trafficking going on in our country. And we have a survivor here with us this morning from human trafficking. And I'm going to introduce you guys here today to Lauren.
I'm Lauren.
Yep. And this is Kaysha.
Hello. Hi.
So, Kaysha, we were talking the other day about the human trafficking and everything going on. And you're one of the survivors from this. What can you tell our viewer audience happened with you?
So, as you said, my name is Kaysha Richardson, and thank you for having us in your show as well. I'm an American Indian, born in Canada. I'm a whistleblower. So I worked at a maximum security prison for the criminally insane, the provincial government in Canada, in Saskatchewan. My father's a mechanical engineer, and we were whistleblowing on improper contagion mitigation in early 2020. I used his research to file official OH&S complaints, which is the same as OSHA in the United States. He outlined how the improper contagion mitigation was used to do election interference and bioterrorism in Canada and the U.S. The way he explains it to me as an engineer is that the CDC changed the guidelines 20 years ago. It created a critical weakness in the infrastructure of Canada and the United States, making it weak to biological attack, which was an act preparatory to levying war. So this was instantly treason. We reported this, and the rogue members of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, Saskatchewan Health Authority, which was the provincial governing body for the provincial prison I worked at, and a few other agencies were involved in torturing and persecuting us. As soon as my father put out this research, the first thing they did was stole my little sister. She was 16 months old at the time, and now she's 4. We haven't seen her in 3 years. Not even a picture, video, audio, nothing. I ended up having to flee to the United States because I'm an American Indian, so it seemed like the most reasonable option, being sovereign on both sides of the border. On October 1st of 2020, I went to Montana Sweetgrass Port of Entry, which is also my ancestral homeland. I presented this information to the border agents, Jonathan Gruak. He took all of my travel documents, tried to destroy them, handed me over to immigration, and I was put in a maximum security prison for immigration and military detainees, actually in Nevada, here in Nevada in Pahrump. We're in Vegas though.
Right.
But they drove me from the border all the way there, and I spent 7 months there. I was paroled March 31st, 2021. So immigration spent, some time trying to deport me, about 3 times. But Canada refused my deportation as it's illegal to deport American Indians on either side of the border. They told immigration, why is she even in immigration detention? Release her. So immigration decided to parole me into the United States, but they did, what they did was put me on an American supervisor program on a Category C-18 visa. So this is for like the worst criminals that come into the country that need to just work for a certain period of time before they deport to where they need to go. And I have no prior crimes or convictions in any country in the world, not even speeding tickets. And so I was forced to live with who they paroled me to. I was put under a tracking system supervision. I wasn't allowed to leave the house at certain points in time. I couldn't leave the city without permission. And the people that they paroled me to ended up raping me, beating me, holding me at gunpoint, drugging me, trying to sell me to military people for sexual and financial exchange. And that happened over the course of the last 3 years. And so all of this was done to suppress the evidence of what my father conducted. He's a published author, a researcher, and his work sitting in the Library of Congress. He exposed the treason that was going on, and if they dealt with this on October 1st of 2020, then January 6th would have never happened, and Trump would have never had his election stolen. We wouldn't be seeing him being arrested for unlawfully for the crimes of the Biden administration.
Absolutely. So this is quite a story. So we're going to be doing about an hour program, and we're going to be discussing this in depth. And you have no problem coming on and really going in depth on everything?
For sure, yeah. And my dad, of course, we could try to get him to come on for that meeting as well, because he'll really explain how, I mean, he's the engineer. I just worked for the government. And so he will give everybody that understanding on a professional level. That'd be great.
I mean, this is something we've been talking about for quite some time now. We've been exposing the human trafficking down on our borders. We've been just what's happening with our corrupt government, and it's nonstop. And we have Lauren here with us today, and she just everything that she's been through herself is amazing.
Yeah, I'm Lauren Cupp, so I'm from Indiana, actually born and raised, and my daughter was molested for 7 years. And so what came about that, she had a forensic interview done, and based upon a preponderance of evidence, the man was found guilty. But then I found out that there was no court hearing for this protective order. There's no minutes. The prosecutor owns the forensic interview place where my daughter had a forensic interview, and it actually wasn't even accredited to do the forensic interview at the time. So she was sent there. They did a protective order. And then a year later, almost to the date the protective order was granted, the man violated it by filming my daughter and my nephew, who was 17 at the time. My daughter was 13 at the time. So when he violated the protective order, and by the way, it was a neighbor in my parents' neighborhood that was molesting her. And the reason why she came out was because my daughter said he was this close to grabbing me because he was seen by many neighbors chasing my daughter and her friend. So that's the reason why she said that she told, and it took her so long to tell. So when that happened, I confronted the child molester, and I asked him to stop filming my daughter. I'm not on the protective order, but I asked him to stop filming my daughter. His wife came out and was screaming and said, "We weren't filming your daughter, we weren't filming your daughter." And she spit in my face. As soon as I felt spit in my face, I did open hand smack the woman. And then I left. Police recommended no charges be filed. They did not file. They said that my mom didn't have enough evidence of such for the violation of the protective order, even though she's under 14 years old of age, and they had to investigate it. They did not. So then I just started doing some digging after that and found out a large web of connections and 2 child sex trafficking rings. And I've been exposing them since. And they charged me with a misdemeanor warrant. And I have no criminal history past of no trespassing and battery against the child molester's wife. So they finally, so I knew what the police report said, even though the police wouldn't give it to me. I had a buddy who was a sheriff who gave it to me. And they did no probable cause affidavit. Literally, they recommended no charges be filed, so it was all false. So then, let's see, May 29th, 2023, a plainclothes officer, which I didn't know was an officer, approached me and my children. I was in a bikini. We were going to the pool. Approached me and my children at the park, and he just said, hey, and my daughter looked at me like with the fear of God in her eyes, and I'm like, don't panic, let's just start walking back home. So my 4-year-old son is in the wagon, and so we started walking back, and I noticed that he was still behind us. He ended up coming back with 22 armed men. They held a AR-15 at my head, a barking dog 2 feet away from my face, and they were all men. And they arrested me on this misdemeanor warrant that was from 2 counties over. And so I was held unlawfully for 30 days, and then they transported me to another facility on a warrant that was actually expired, so they should have never transported me to begin with. And then, so when they took me and arrested me, I begged them to take me to the hospital. And they said, no, we're not going to call EMS. And I was like, you guys have to. And so finally they called EMS. They took me to the hospital. They made me ride in the front of the cop car, handcuffed. They drugged me, and they told me if my kids did not go, or if I did not give a statement to them on recording that my kids were going to go to foster care. So finally, after so many times I was going in and out of consciousness, I have no idea what I said on this interview. But I did do an interview with them and that was the first female officer I saw, was at the hospital. And so I did do an interview because I was scared my kids were going to go to foster care. So they've been in Child Protective Services custody since May 29th of 2023. And I've been fighting to get, because she's gotten no victim services for this, no trauma therapy, no nothing. And then, let's see what else did I miss?
Well, I mean, the courts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that judge.
The same judge that's presiding on the criminal hearing is presiding on the family court matter. And we actually reported her dad's research, and we got increased retaliation. We reported it to the sheriff's office and the FBI.
Well, we used it for a criminal complaint.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so when we went to court for the family court hearing, they tried to arrest us. They threatened, she tried to be a witness for what she had seen, and they threatened to arrest us. They were intimidating us and had 3 sheriffs behind us. And she ended up calling the police while we were in the courtroom. And they eventually just, the next day, I had my criminal court hearing with the same judge. And they locked us out of the criminal court hearing and told us there would be no hearing, although the judge did make a ruling on that hearing, on both hearings.
So this judge made a ruling without you even being present.
And we've got it on recording. That they locked us out of the courtroom.
And we called the police.
Unbelievable.
And so then they ultimately revoked my bond because I called the police on the police.
That's what they said, yeah.
And I've got a recorded call with that on my pretrial, yeah.
And the only reason she...
So you have recordings on this?
Everything.
Would you mind sharing that with us later?
Absolutely. I've got everything, yes. About both trafficking rings, I've got everything.
So this is what we keep talking about, guys. We have so much going on in this country, the amount of human trafficking going on, not just on our borders, but right here in America, to where they're taking people's rights, parental rights, taking their children from them, as they have you, Lauren, to where it gets all caught up in the legal system.
And it's so unconstitutional because they're using the family court system, and they tried locking my mom out and getting me to be in there by myself, and I said, no, this is unconstitutional. I'm leaving then. I'm not going to sit here by myself and then you guys all be against me. So even though I'm representing myself pro se, they're like, it's a closed hearing. But under the Constitution, no, I have a right to have her as a witness and an ADA advocate. And so the judge denied that as well. She refuses to recuse herself. She's made that very clear. She's made 3 rulings, I think, now, without me being present.
Yeah, they're not giving you the right to due process, for sure. And I mean, the research that my dad conducted, actually, he's been working with RCMP in Canada for over a year. And that's the FBI in Canada, for those who are unaware. They love the way that he's outlined the documents. They always ask if he's ex-law enforcement because of how well it's constructed. And they were able to file high treason and human trafficking complaints in Canada based on this research. They've been trying to cooperate with people on this side of the border to get justice because there are dual citizens involved. One of them is Robert A. Cannon, who's involved in the trafficking and sexual assaults.
You said Robert A. Cannon, right?
Yeah, Robert A. Cannon. And unfortunately, if this is being dealt with, also people like Lauren who are being tortured by the local law enforcement and other people would not have to be suffering this way because it would be dealt with. It's not an isolated event, and it's very clearly lined out based on the ideologies present. And so, I mean, what happened to Lauren was actually torture under the Convention Against Torture, because what the police did was create a circumstance for her to be under duress to begin with by bringing one officer to threaten her and her children while they were at the pool park in their bathing suits, and
he was
unidentified, no undercover car and everything, and then came back with 22 officers who were holding guns to her head, kicked her head into the ground and had the dog barking at her, then drugged her and interrogated her to steal her children.
So this law enforcement that was at that park that day, he never did
Nope.
announce himself as
Nope.
being law enforcement or anything?
No, and my ex is a sheriff, and that's how I know that they have to announce themselves and who they are, especially after Breonna Taylor died. But they were gang stalking me before, like I've got ADT footage of them coming up to my cameras, covering my cameras, and you can see like their patch on their arm, and then they just cover my cameras and get beside. And they rang my doorbell over 17 times in less than 30 seconds. They didn't even say anything. I mean, they've came over 8 times, 2 counties over to serve a misdemeanor warrant on someone that has no criminal history.
So it sounds to me like you have been being targeted.
Yes.
Not just targeted, they wanted your children.
Yeah.
That's what they were really after.
Yeah. And they got them. Yeah.
And now they have your children.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be a battle.
Mm-hmm.
So we have a gentleman up in Idaho that we're working with as well, Kirk Pendergrass. I'm going to be submitting a lot of this information over to him as well.
Okay.
Very great in the Constitution and everything.
Yeah.
And we're gonna work at getting your children back.
Okay.
I mean, this is going to be a battle, but we're going to do it.
Yeah.
What's happened? What's happened to you is unbelievable. What's happened to you? You two are the most strongest women for everything you've been through currently.
Thank you.
It's amazing that you've got it this much together right now.
Thank you.
And I mean,
grace of God and my dad, I think.
definitely the grace of God, and your dad. Your dad, having him for the support as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to be looking forward to speaking to him.
Absolutely.
And we're going to do everything we can. We're going to do later, probably about an hour session with on the human trafficking and everything that these two have been through. It's been a long weekend, guys. We've all been here in Vegas.
Yeah.
And we're getting ready to leave here in a matter of minutes, so we do have to cut this live video short. But stay tuned here. We'll announce the day that we're going to be doing this interview. And we'd love to have you on, and we'll go greatly into detail on this.
And I'll send you all the evidence.
Yeah,
and
if you can have that.
Yep.
Tell me what it's okay with you for me to play for the audience as well.
100%.
And we'll play it as well.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
That way,
everything. I've got it all on my. Yeah, I've already posted everything.
Video,
yeah.
everything.
Yeah, that way the audience can see exactly what we're all talking about as well.
Yes.
And anything too confidential, I understand.
Yeah. I usually
we do
just
everything
block
public.
out. Yeah. I just block out my kids' names, and that's about it
Yeah.
on the legal documents. But yeah. They even tried to silence me and tell me I couldn't go on podcasts, I couldn't speak out about the situation, things like that. It's against my First Amendment right to do that. I'm speaking out for a reason, and there is 2 child sex trafficking rings, not just one. The other child, we don't even know if he's still alive. Actually, Department of Homeland Security is it Homeland Security that picked her up?
Is that the Ariel's children?
Yeah. Picked up.
You say Ario's children?
Ariel. Yeah.
Ariel's?
So her son, they're doing EMDR on her 3-year-old son, and we found out the guy is not even a doctor. He's literally did spend 20 years in Indiana Department of Corrections.
Wow.
But the Evansville mayor co-signs, on his website how great of a guy he is. The judges say how great of a guy he is. Yeah, it's amazing.
Unbelievable.
Yeah.
This is corruption at its finest. I mean,
yeah.
And unfortunately, we're seeing more and more of this here in America.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, and a lot of it is from Child Protective Services, and they're just literally. I mean, I never thought I'd be in this position, but they did get my kid. I didn't answer the door the first time. It's just huge. You know your rights with Child Protective Services, because I feel like you mow your grass the wrong way and the neighbor calls. You don't have to answer the door, but they did catch me outside. So that's why and then created that circumstance so they could take my kids.
Well, ladies, I know we got to check out of here in about 8 minutes.
Yes.
So, appreciate you guys viewing this morning. Please share their story.
Please do.
Again, we're going to be live on the air here in the next week. we'll do this interview.
Sounds good.
I'd love to have you on
Absolutely.
it, and hopefully we're all a little more well rested.
I know,
as
right?
well.
Absolutely.
So it's been a long weekend. So, and good morning to all of you. Sorry I didn't announce good morning. So, all right. This is Johnathon Alexander reporting live with livebordernews.com, and muchly appreciate you ladies being here.
Thank you so much.
So, this is Alexander reporting.